We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello and welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I speak from the role of a patient, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your other host, Michelle Harvey. I am Mason's mom, and I also speak in the role of a caregiver on this show. And so now what we're here to talk about today is Mason is graduating from high school. So it's a big deal, and I thought it was worth talking about. I'm sure you do too. Or maybe you're done and you don't want to talk about it anymore.
Well.
But I think it's good to share because we've done an episode before on homeschooling and the benefits of how that worked out for Mason. So I think it's just good to share again since he is now graduating. It's been a little while since we did that episode.
How long ago was that? Is that the first season or the second?
I think that might have been this. I mean, it could have been like a year ago, something like that. So yeah. Wow. So we had mentioned before how well homeschooling worked and how it helped, with the diagnosis and everything like that. And so I kind of want to revisit this and give some of you out there, if maybe you're thinking about doing it, or even if your kids are in public school, different ideas to help you do this if you decide this is something that might work for you too. And maybe your teen is already doing this. First of all, we had this meeting with his teacher this morning. That's why this is on our minds too.
Because we were actually in this room Zooming with our teacher.
Yeah, it was the last. It
was the last thing with
time.
Our teacher, so it was a big sad.
Yeah, it was. It's definitely like happy, and it's also sad. So
but it's also sad is because with the teachers. How many have I had? Like
three.
Yeah. And so whenever it feels like you're about to get to know one, they're gone.
Yeah.
It's like, no. And so, when he starts getting this one, you're like.
And I think
so they're gone.
What he's talking about is his educational specialist. And he attended classical academy, and then I would homeschool him 5 days a week here. But we went through an academy that had a physical location as well, where you could opt to do some classes there. And we would meet every 6 weeks and with an educational specialist to go over how Mason's schooling was going, if there's any help support I needed. They would provide materials. This was classical academy, and it's like you partner up with them, and it gives you the support you might need as a parent. So it's a really good option because there's multiple ways to homeschool. There's extremes. I feel like we're like balanced right in the middle.
Yeah, we're in the middle.
I feel like we were not like way on the side where we just did like free homeschooling where it was like there's or you're out living your life and you are and there are some people who choose to do that, and then there's the other side, which is going to regular public school 5 days a week, and you are doing exactly what is expected of you with that curriculum.
We're basically doing that from home.
So we're in the middle because we were able to kind of create our own curriculum, but it was all academic based. It was all approved with the state of California. So
and it all had to be done like normal school. You'll have the schedules,
right?
And
you had due dates. You had tests. You had it wasn't like Mason. I mean, you probably sometimes wish we were a little more on the other end of homeschooling.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, no, if that wasn't the case, then I wouldn't be 2 years ahead and I wouldn't be in college right now.
And I think the way that we did this was like a hybrid, because one of the things is, and I'm not knocking either way. It's up to you as a parent what you think is best for your child. That's really what it is. Not what's best for you, but what's best for your child. And at the time, this is the decision we thought worked best for Mason. But I think that having this hybrid has helped you with college, because if we had never done anything that was structured, I think when you went to college, you would have adapted. But I think for you,
oh my God, it's due.
I think it helped.
Yeah, it definitely does help,
because it was still different. College was still a little different, but I think it helped.
And if I was in public school, I mean, obviously I'd still be doing good, but with Crohn's disease especially, with flares and stuff. But because I'm able to be homeschooled, I was able to do it whenever I could,
Hmm.
if I was a flare or if I wasn't. And now I'm 2 years ahead. So,
And the other thing, because this is something we had started before Mason got sick. When
yes.
he was diagnosed, it was like, okay, this is perfect now.
Because it wasn't like you had to make a transition. We were already
Right.
ready for it. And
It
she
was
just
nice and
switched.
smooth. It was like for him, it wasn't like one more thing where he's like, oh, my life
Oh,
is
right.
changing and now this, but it was like actual, I think, a comfort because you knew what to expect. You knew that if you needed to lay down on the couch, if you
Mhm.
needed to work from, however it was, we would get your stuff done
Yeah.
and you would do it in a way that worked for you so that he didn't academically fall behind because I think that would have also made you feel when you're first diagnosed, it probably would have made you feel kind of bad.
Yeah, because on top of all the stress you're going through, like, oh, great, now I'm missing this and this
Yeah. And that's a
and yeah.
whole that's a difficult thing for a lot of kids and young teens to feel like you are falling behind at something that it's like, how am I going to catch
And
up?
another thing that was nice is with all the things I was on at the time,
Hmm.
but that still takes a toll on your immune system. And when you're in public school,
Oh, because you're on
yeah,
steroids
you're
and
on
you're on
steroids, you're on
methotrexate.
methotrexate, you're on biologics.
Yeah.
It's not good for
No.
your immune system, especially around 2020. I
Yeah.
mean, the worst possible time. And I mean,
Yeah.
if you're in public school, which actually was nice because at the time everyone was doing homeschool.
Hmm.
And so there were a lot more options, especially now in college.
Right. All of a sudden.
Now, because a lot more kids started homeschooling and they're like, oh,
Right.
this is nice. Now colleges are actually making a lot more work from home stuff. So there's
Hmm.
some upsides of the COVID outbreak, and then
Yeah.
obviously there's downsides. But thankfully, we were already homeschooled, so I didn't have to deal with my immune system
Yeah.
getting sick easily, and then the COVID and all that, thankfully.
Because it took a while to get you to your stable.
Oh, it did.
And even then you were switched over to two biologics. And so it was like
Oh,
it just would
two
have been a stress
biologics.
on his mind because not only was he not feeling well, his
No.
immune system was all of a sudden just being suppressed.
Because one biologic is already hard for your immune
Yeah.
system, and two now.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh my
and then
gosh.
it twice the recommended
Yeah.
dosage for you.
Like
And
four
instead of
weeks.
every 8 weeks,
Instead of every 8 weeks, it's
it's every
every
4
four
weeks.
weeks.
Yeah. And the other thing is you're going to all these appointments. And
Hmm.
so we could go to appointments any time of
Yeah,
the
that was
week
actually really nice.
and
Because for public school,
mhm,
you can do school any day of the week unless it's Saturday or Sunday, unless you have homework. But,
yeah,
you're supposed to
those
be.
are your days off
Yeah,
though.
those are days
Yeah.
off. But with homeschool, well, specifically our kind, you're able to move things around. Like
Yeah.
say we have a doctor's appointment this week on Tuesday, and because we won't be doing school on that day, we're gonna have to work
Mhm.
on Saturday, or we can put more work on Monday and try to get through that, tank through that. And can move things around to better fit the schedule, which is really nice because when you're going to several doctor appointments,
Yeah.
when I was diagnosed, I was going
Oh,
to
you're
about
going
three a
it,
week
it
or
f-
something.
it felt like a lot at first. We had a lot of
Hmm.
specialists to see. Slowly
And
eased out of that,
yeah,
but
slowly ease out of it.
but the thing that remains constant are your
It as the
treatments.
treatments, which is every
2 weeks.
every two
And
weeks, yeah.
so there'd
And
be, we
so
put those onto Tuesdays. And so they, that way we always knew what to expect. It was going to be
yes.
on a Tuesday. So he could get work done on the weekend if he had to. So then Tuesday would be like his day off.
Hmm.
And because some of you guys, when you
Yeah,
have
my day off with an
treatments,
IV in my arm.
well, when you have
Yeah.
treatments, like, so, you come home and maybe you
Yeah,
get a
you have the
headache, maybe you're
Benadryl. Oh,
tired.
headaches and Benadryl. Ugh.
Yeah. So sometimes it's nice to know that you can have the rest of the day off. It's not
Hmm.
like, well, I have to get back to school or
Yeah, it's nice to
I,
just be able to relax.
yeah. And so, I mean, and unfortunately, yeah, it's not like you want your day off to be spent that way,
No, but I mean, it's
but it's
better
what
than having to
worked.
go back and,
Right.
imagine if you have an IV, you have your vein gets burst, and then you're tired, you're with Benadryl, takes an hour to get to the hospital, takes an hour to get back,
Yeah.
you're
Same
tired
thing.
from the
It takes
car
a lot of
already,
time.
then you're on the Benadryl, then you're even more tired, your arm might hurt a little bit, you might have a headache, different side effects. Then you get home and you're like, oh great, now I have to do school.
Yeah.
So, you know.
We tried to eliminate that
Not a
for
great day
him.
off, but
Right.
It's
But
a
at least you don't
lot
have that
better
stress.
than doing school. So
And
it's a trade-off.
you also were keeping up
Hmm.
because it was something that was important to us that because we'd heard stories, so many people's kids falling behind, which is
Hmm.
understandable.
Yeah, definitely.
And he was a year ahead when he was
Hmm.
diagnosed. So he's already a year ahead in school.
And so we had that little bumper
Yeah, and which was
just in
nice. And
case.
we were thinking at the time we may have to use that. Like maybe
Hmm.
now he's a year ahead. Maybe if we need to, we can let him catch up and with the disease and let him till he's feeling better, and then we can kind of restart again. And so we had that buffer built in there. But
Just in
then
case. Hmm.
we decided,
We're gonna tank through it.
yeah, for you, you knew what it was like when you were feeling really sick, and you knew what it
Hmm.
was like to be suddenly hospitalized.
Yeah,
And a lot
it's
of
very
people with
hard.
this disease, you understand that things can be going great one week, and the next week your life is upside down, and
Oh,
you
God.
are in the hospital, or whatever's happening. And so the thought was with him, because we had a big meeting with his school about this. This was
Mhm.
not something that was like I just made the decision.
No,
Um,
there's definitely
just
there's reason for
we
it.
had to make sure that the school was in line, that he had earned that place where he was a year ahead. And so the topic was, do we have him repeat eighth grade? This was the time. Do we have him repeat it, or do we let him just continue moving forward? What's best for Mason? So this was a conversation we had with the principal of the high school, with the principal of our middle school, with psychologists, with the educational specialists, and even Mason's own therapist at the time weighed in on this with her opinion too. And it was important that whatever was decided was something that would work for Mason. And
Mhm.
ultimately, like we had discussed, when you're feeling healthy, like that's the
Yes,
time to
use
act.
that.
Use that time.
You might be like, "Oh, I'm feeling healthy. Today's a good day to take a break and go outside."
Yeah,
If you're feeling healthy, use it.
right. So I think that, I guess it was what I was thinking in my head was, if he wasted a year repeating something he had already
Mhm.
done, and then say at the time, we like, what if the biologics failed
Yeah,
him?
and then we're gonna have another
And then we
problem
have another problem
later.
because now he's lost that buffer. And we didn't know what the future is going to be like. So sometimes when you don't know what your future is going to be like, I think the best thing you do is the make the best decision for you at the moment. And for him, that was go
Sticking with
forward.
school because I do not want to repeat eighth grade. I don't
Right.
want to repeat what I've already done.
For you. That would have been like, I already did this. I earned this. And so he was kind of frustrated because he was also very small. That was the other concern, was his size. And he's a little grown a little bit since then. But
Yeah,
it was like, no,
yeah.
because that could be for the rest of his life. He may end up shorter stature, or, that could end up because of this disease. So don't let it hold you back. Like that was kind of the thing, was saying, no, we don't want this to hold him back. And
Mhm.
I think you made the decision, like,
Yes,
no.
be one with Crohn's disease. Don't fight against do fight against Crohn's disease, but don't let it slow you down.
Right. For Mason, we're just like, let's go for it. So we did.
Mhm.
And he ended up, it worked out. Everyone agreed. And he was allowed to continue on where
Mhm.
he was with that year gained. And so
Okay.
he was, so originally he would have been class of 2027. And then when he was getting ready for what would have been it was his 11th grade year. And we started looking at the units because Mason had taken also an extra load of classes
Mhm.
each year. So when he,
Yes.
what was his freshman year, his sophomore year, he didn't take just like the minimum, he
No.
took extra courses. And
Went above
so
and beyond.
yeah. And he was feeling like this is something he could handle. And we also knew if he couldn't, we could remove some of those and it would not penalize him. And so that was the main thing. Don't set him up for failure.
No.
Not like you can't, you have to finish, you have to take these. So it was like, if a couple
Mhm.
classes don't work out, then you take what a regular ninth grader would be taking. And that was okay too. And then when we were looking at 11th grade, I was like, hey, Mason, it's like, I'm doing some math over here. I'm looking at your credits. And we had set it up so you have a very light senior year. And I'm like, well, you know what? You could probably take those courses you take your senior year with your 11th grade year, and you would be done. So really 2 years early.
Mhm.
So if this is not making sense, I apologize, but it does make sense on paper.
Yes, I understand it.
Yeah. So then it was decided, okay, so last year, like, he could start taking some college classes.
Mhm. So we're taking 12th grade and 11th grade and college
Right.
classes.
At the same time.
Yeah, we did English 101 or
English
English 100.
100.
Oh, I was thinking of Design 101. But it was
Yeah.
English 100 over the summer.
Right, which counted for English
Hmm.
12. And
Yes.
so, and some of you guys might be doing this. You might be having your kids take community college classes instead of some of the high school ones. And for us, it was no cost.
Mm,
There was no cost to take these classes, which was really a cool
great.
deal. And so yeah, so
Because
he
college is overly expensive.
well,
Yeah.
college is just expensive
Yeah.
because it's something extra. And I do feel, I mean, there's a lot of different opinions out there, but there's ways you can also save money. You don't have to go to the most expensive
No.
four-year university straight out. And, we've talked to Mason about this, and there's ways you can take some college classes and get ahead and get those for free while you're in high school. So that's what he did. So we just, it's important for you guys out there, the parents too, to help out if you're with your high school
Yes.
students.
Help your kid.
Look at their credits, look at how much they have, and see if there's a way where they can, if you want them to graduate early, because that was interesting too, because some people asked us, why is it so important to graduate early? And I remember that was one of the questions we were asked when we were going to be enrolling you into ninth grade, and they were like, why is it so important to graduate early? And
You have
um,
more time to figure out your job. You
I
have
think
more
that was
time
important to
to
you,
do
right?
college. Yeah. And you have more time to do college too if you want to take it a little bit slower.
Yeah.
You have more time to
You
look
don't
for a
have to like
job and
rush through it
yeah.
and suddenly, and my thought was, like we kind of mentioned earlier, really because of his diagnosis, like why not graduate early?
Yeah, why not? If you can,
Yeah,
do it.
right. Because it's
Do
like,
the
okay,
do.
well, you're healthy, you're feeling good.
Yeah.
And so it's like this is something to take advantage of. And then like now the stress is off of you.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here going,
It's like,
that was the last of high school. That was the last of school.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
And now we just have college.
But the cool part is like with high school and like with all of you people out there, all of your
Hmm.
kids that have IBD, you have to continue with it. You want to get that diploma.
Yes.
And now, like I've told them, college is a choice. That is a personal choice.
Mhm.
You don't have to go to
You don't have to
college.
go to college, but if
Um,
you want to, you can.
yeah. And if you do want to, now you can. So I
Hmm.
think that is really empowering, though, that you
It
can
feels like
take a
you have a
break.
choice and you're
Yeah.
not being like, because with school, high school, it's like you have to take some science and then you're taking chemistry and it's like, oh. And then with college, it's like, well, you chose that.
Right.
But with college, you can also choose what you want to learn. Like, there's anything you can think of, you can pretty much learn about, and you
Yeah.
can do what interests you.
It's basically high school repeating itself in a
Yes.
lot of
There's
ways.
math,
So
there's
it's not like you
history,
don't have
there's
to do those
English.
things. For a degree, you do have to do
Yes, if you
them.
want the degree, you have to do
Right.
it.
But a degree is optional. A diploma
Mm.
really isn't. That is
You have
something
to
that
have a
is
diploma
expected
kind
of
of.
all students here is to graduate and get your high school diploma. And that's something that's important for you for Launchpad with any jobs in the future,
Hmm.
going to college in the future. And so that is different. And now with that pressure off, it's like now you want to get certifications. You want to, who knows? The sky's the limit with that. You can make
Yes,
that decision. And
quite literally.
so I think for the lesson for those of you listening is to really be in tune and know what your child needs, what would be best for them. Maybe accelerating them and taking too many courses may stress
Oh,
your child out.
yes.
And maybe they're like, I
Everyone
don't.
knows their limits.
Yes. And that is what is the most important. I think that's the biggest lesson with homeschool is what I enjoyed was getting to do what worked for Mason
Mhm.
and being flexible enough to say, if this doesn't work for Mason, we're okay with that. And we'll take a different path. So we had like path A, B, C,
Uh-huh.
D, different, all these different scenarios. And it was like, if he does get sick, if he does end up here, then, he was 2 years ahead. And well, we lose a little bit of time with that. We had an even bigger buffer built in, but now it's paid off. And, he just turned 16 a month ago and he's going to be a high school graduate.
Yeah.
And that's, and a lot of people also, it's like, oh, you have to be really smart. And Mason is smart.
Yes.
We'll say that.
Yes.
He
We'll
is
say
smart.
that.
Yes. Yes, he is smart. But at the same time, he's also a hard worker. And so
You
this
put in the
isn't
work.
just you do.
It's not like I'm just blessed with being smart.
Right. It was like, oh, that was just, I
Maybe
just
I
took all
like
my
to say I'm
courses.
really smart.
You had to put the work into
Yeah, you have
those
to put the work
classes.
into it. You
Mhm.
can't just say, yeah, today, well, I don't think I'll take that, but maybe eventually, you have to put the work into it. And you
Mhm.
have you have to be smart to an extent to be able to
Right.
understand it and be able to complete it. But you don't have to be the smartest person to do it. You just have to be on track, stay on course.
Yeah.
You have to do it. You have to be dedicated to doing it.
Yeah.
You can't just skip, or
And like
skip a day or so.
we joke like I've told him like like the C's get degrees. We
She's get
talked about
degrees.
that. Like because really in college I'm like I've told him don't let you just pass the class, do what you got to do because a lot of people out there who are not going to be A students
Mhm.
and there's a lot of people out there who maybe being A student is going to be a lot easier for them. And that doesn't really matter. It's your effort and what you put into it and
Yes,
what
it's
you
the
get out
effort
of
that
it.
counts. Did you
Right.
try? Yeah. So as long as you try, I mean, obviously we don't want to get, we'd all love an A.
Yeah, which you
Yeah,
yeah,
which is the best option, but as long as you tried, it's not like you just sat there and went, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna write this answer, I'm not gonna try. And
mhm,
it's like, okay, you might have guessed right, but
right.
that's still not impressive. But
Yeah.
as long as you're trying, you're really putting work into it,
Hmm.
you may not get the best grade, but
Right.
you're still gonna be impressive to people because you try, you put that effort in,
And you
you really
finished.
cared,
You did.
and you
Yeah.
finished it. Yeah.
And like that's one of the things I've always told him. Like I'd rather him receive a C for accomplishing something that was very difficult for him, but he
Mhm.
didn't give up, than getting an A just because it was easy because
Yeah.
he's smart. And so
Like, oh,
it's
this is easy. It's like,
yeah.
oh, that's
So
good.
we never like this is like the other funny thing with homeschool. We never, and we may have talked about this, I can't remember if we said this in the other podcast,
Yeah, see?
but one of the things we never really talked about was grades. Like with Mason in school, one of my goals was to educate him in a way that allowed him to make mistakes. I didn't want him to be so afraid of failing or like not getting an A
Mhm.
that it froze him up and he would have a hard time. So we never like I never told him like, "Oh, you got an A on this or you got a B." Now, I knew what he was receiving because as his teacher, I had to record that because we were going through
To
an
the
academy,
teacher, yeah,
through classical academy, and
to
they
the
needed it
academy.
for their
Mhm.
records. But for the most part, like when I asked Mason, like, do you know what a 4.0 is? Like GPA?
I'm like,
He's like, I have no idea. And so I realized we're going to have this conversation because when you start to go to college, it becomes important with these transcripts and it you have to start turning things in. And so he just like realized he's had a 4.0 since he has had straight A's since he was first enrolled in school. And even through
which is
college so
amazing.
far. And that's not, I mean, part of that is probably me as a parent saying, you want to brag as a parent, but
You
at the
have that
same
right.
time, I feel like it wasn't because Mason's just naturally so much smarter.
It's because we persevere and we push.
And you tried and you didn't and you weren't afraid because it wasn't like I was standing over you saying, "Oh, you
You
don't want to
better
get
get
a
an
B and you
A.
better get an
You
A on
better get an
this."
A.
It was like,
No.
no, I was like, I want to see you make a
Yeah.
mistake. If you don't
If
know how to do it, I need to know
Yeah,
that
if
so I can
you
help
don't
you.
understand what you're doing, you have to make mistakes to learn.
Yeah.
You learn from your mistakes.
That's how you learn. And I mean, we don't want to make, like I've always told me, we don't want to make mistakes that are irreversible,
Yeah.
that are really bad
There,
mistakes.
there's bad mistakes, but
Right.
then there's mistakes like, yeah, you can learn from.
Right. And so I think that it helped me so I could see, okay, where is he struggling? Where is he having problems in this subject? How can I better help him? And so by giving him kind of that freedom, he actually did really well and excelled. Like it was something that worked very well for us. But I did know at some point he would need to become aware of the grading system. And
Mhm.
as he got older, obviously we've been doing this since the beginning. And I figured was once you get to college, all of a sudden it's like very grade centered. Your
Yes.
teachers are you and you want to make sure your grades are a certain level so you're passing. You're now spending money to take these
Yeah.
classes.
You're putting money into this,
Right. It's
yeah,
no
not
longer
just time.
right. It's no longer just your time, it's your money too. And so like
College wants the money.
it's important for you to know,
Mhm.
percentage wise where you're at and how are you going to pass this class and how, do you want, and since it's just you'd like to get an A just for the pride of being able to say, hey, I
I
got
got
an
an
A.
A.
That's always cool, but it really isn't, it's never been something that's been super important
Mm.
to us. And I think that
I
has,
mean, when you look back, you go, I got an A, let's go. But,
yeah,
when you're doing it, it's just like, all right, we got that done.
yeah.
On to the next thing.
And you were always like, it wasn't like we didn't like congratulate you
Oh,
or
no, you
so we
did.
were always celebrated your achievements and your victories and you would get awards along the
Mhm.
way from your teachers and it was just important for me that you develop that personal pride for wanting to do
Mhm.
well,
And you
not
weren't
just so
afraid of
you
failing.
weren't, yeah, you weren't afraid of failing, and you weren't just doing it so you could tell people I have an A, I did,
Hmm.
so you never
If you're afraid of
talked about that.
failing, there's so many things you can miss out on.
Right.
Yeah.
We do this every day in our daily lives,
Mhm.
even things like making dinner for
Yes.
a family or
Oh no,
making,
I'm gonna fail making
it's
chicken.
like you
Oh,
can't say I'm just
well,
not
just
going to cook
make it again.
because I'm going to fail. You have to
You have to
say
try.
I'm going to try.
Hmm.
And if it didn't turn out, okay, what did I identify? What did I do that I could change next time?
Because
And
even with the little things that you don't even
yeah,
know, like you could be tying your shoelaces. You'd be thinking, oh, that's simple. But you're thinking, I don't want to tie my shoelaces in case I tie it wrong.
right,
No, you can retie those shoelaces again.
right.
And you're not afraid to do it because it's just a natural thing. And so there's just so many things that what you would have to stop doing if you're afraid of failing.
And I think what was interesting too, and I'm going to bring up, I'm not going to mention the names, but he is the CEO of a very large bioscience company,
Hmm.
and just launched a new one here in San Diego. And incredible
Incredible,
man.
man.
We are so fortunate to know him. He's well known.
Yes.
And he had told Mason, because the joke was always, like, when Mason's like, I can't work here. I'm not smart enough because it's this incredible bioscience company. They've done incredible
Scientists
things.
that are just,
Yeah.
I'm struggling in
I think
chemistry,
you've
but
always admired them and looked up to
yeah,
them
it's
kind
like
of
it's
like your
insane how they're
heroes.
able to
Like
do it.
these are
Yeah,
incredible
they are
people.
heroes.
And as you've grown up and got to see this bioscience company, you've grown with them.
Hmm.
And I think all of a sudden it's like thinking of working there or these being your peers, it's like, oh, I'm not that smart. And
No,
he
I
was
can't do
like,
that.
and he even said to you though, because he's like, hey, and the first time he's like, you can't be afraid. You can't let that stop you. You can't let,
Hmm.
don't, you can't be afraid to fail. And so he started, it was cool to hear him
So
say that because something we've always talked
yeah,
about.
you can't be afraid to fail. So just
Yeah,
do it. You gotta try.
you
Give it
have
your
to.
best.
You have to, and you can't be intimidated by
And if you
certain
fail,
things.
well,
Then and
you
maybe
know,
you've also learned something yourself. That was not for me.
yeah, that's not for you. If you
That
fail,
was
that's
not
just
for
one thing
me.
you're not capable of, and
Right.
maybe.
So, and I hope I know today's episode it's like a little bit like it's kind of relaxed, but
Hmm.
we've had a really busy week. We have a very
Oh
busy
yes.
upcoming weekend. We have Take Steps coming up. We also have, well, that's on Sunday, Take Steps in San Diego, and then the on Saturday, the day before, we are doing a Team Survivor event with the San Diego Blood Bank, also in San Diego at SeaWorld.
Life is so hard.
I know, tough, so tough.
Ooh, SeaWorld. Ooh,
And
I
then
want
we
to see
have,
a shamu.
and that's in a couple days. And then we've had, we had doctor's appointments. He has a couple doctor's
Yeah.
appointments next week. So we
Infusion.
have a lot
A
going
lot of
on.
fun
And
stuff.
I thought it was just perfect though to talk about
Yeah.
graduation. It was good timing. And
Why not?
just to remind you guys out there, your kids and their diagnosis does not mean that and it can mean, well, it doesn't mean the end of their story or their goals. You can
Mhm.
continue to set goals but make it realistic to your child and to their
Yes.
diagnosis. And if they are feeling well, they want to try and achieve, let them.
Yes,
And
let them try.
let them try. Let them go for it. Give them that confidence because maybe if they continue to feel well and it's like, hey, now, it's going to be a really good confidence booster.
Definitely.
And if they don't feel well, then you don't put pressure on them. It's like, all right, we just can eliminate a few classes. And for some of you out there, I know your kids might, it's a different situation. You can't homeschool,
Mhm.
and they may be in public schools where it is
It
really
is
tough
very hard.
to
It's
make
very
these
hard.
things up. Like when they do miss so much
Mhm.
school for
Because it's
appointments,
not like you can say, well, we have an appointment this day, so we're going to do it this way. No,
right?
the
They
whole
miss the
class, yeah,
classes.
you missed a class and stuff.
Yeah. And then you have to have 504 plans
Hmm.
in place and things like that, which we do have, which we've talked about before.
Yes.
We do have for
But
college, but
thankfully,
not for school. We never needed one for school because we
yeah.
homeschooled.
And thankfully, with the three classes, or no, actually, there's more, but with the classes, four classes I've taken for college so far, I haven't needed to use any. So,
Right.
yeah.
You haven't, we have the provisions in place.
Yes. So if we do need to use
And
them, we got them.
right.
But we're thankful and grateful so far. We
Yeah.
haven't had to use them. So
So if that's, please feel to reach out to us if you have any questions about any of this. If you are looking for any personal advice, please, reach out. There's multiple ways to school. Ours is not just the only way
no,
to do it.
ours isn't the only way to do it, and maybe it's not the best to you.
Right.
Maybe you like going to public school.
Right. And a lot of
Maybe you
people do because there are different benefits depending, again, kids are all different.
Yes, it's like Crohn's
And
disease. Everyone is different.
right, different ways to
because
treat it, right?
just because that treats you doesn't mean this is going to treat me.
Right.
Just because I like homeschool doesn't mean you're going to like homeschool.
Yeah.
Do whatever makes you feel best.
Right. And that's ultimately the end of the day. And that's what we're very thankful, because that's kind of lesson of the story with you. That's what we did. We did what was best for you. And we thought this is going to work. And it did. And because we knew Mason and we knew what he was capable of. And we also weren't putting a lot of pressure on him either. It was like, if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. We'll figure it out.
Your kid definitely needs a little bit of pressure, but don't pressure them too much, because that's going to lead to stress, which makes it so they can't really focus.
Right.
And stress also leads to, if they have
Flares, it can
IBD,
trigger
it can trigger
like
flares and
Yeah.
other problems and health problems other than just mental stress. And, it's going to cause a lot more problems. So just don't put too much pressure
Right.
if it's not needed.
Right. Know those limits. So that said, you guys can follow us on Team IB Determined on Instagram, and we'll be posting, I think, tomorrow, your graduation announcement. So you guys will be able to see that.
Well, will this be tomorrow when it's posted, or tomorrow for us?
No, so it's just tomorrow for us. So by the time this video comes out, they'll be able to see it.
So they'll see it. Yes.
Yeah. Also, the Reggie Project.
Yes.
Please feel free to join that. And yep, there's Reggie. And so please feel free to do that. And you can listen to our podcast on any podcast stations like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And we have a link to Buzzsprout on there, so you guys can listen. A bunch of
all the different
you can find anywhere.
Stations.
If you're listening to us, you already found one. So
good job.
Yeah,
you already have the podcast.
That's amazing. Good job. But we do have those, and if you like to watch us, which we film these, yes,
we also film these. Yeah, so we have a camera on us right now. We're talking to a camera right now. Hello, camera.
Yeah, right
there. But if you like watching us, there's also YouTube podcasts, but there's also YouTube videos, which if you're watching YouTube videos, that's most likely why you're on YouTube. But if you are on YouTube, make sure to give us a like and subscribe, and make sure, if you want to know whenever we post a new video, make sure to hit that bell icon. And we also have comments, which, yes, please leave us a comment. Yeah. Have you graduated? Yeah. No?
Yeah, let us know, because it's that time of the year. Are you graduating?
Yes,
what year are you graduating?
Yeah, what year are you going to graduate? What plan? What grade are you in?
What worked for you?
What worked for you? Yes.
So that's
what
what
you're doing
we're
college right now. What are you taking right now?
Yeah, that would be cool, right?
What's your interest? Design.
Feel free to share as much as you want to share.
Yes, share what's comfortable.
Yeah, and then we'll be back. Mason has summer school. He's decided to take a summer class at college.
Yeah, I'm so lucky.
Yeah, so
hey, guess what? It's English.
Yeah, well, it's a good one to get out of the way in the summer. So it's by itself. You can, again, know your strengths and build your schedule around those and what works for you. So that's very important. So next time we talk to you guys, he'll probably be starting that class.
And we'll be writing poetry on the podcast, Shakespeare.
Right. We could make it really interesting, but sorry, that's not this podcast. So we're not here to talk about that. We're not going to
have a second podcast that's called English Podcast.
Oh gosh.
English IBD podcast.
You'd never show up for that. You'd be like, yeah,
I'm out.
Yeah, that's not your favorite.
No.
But anyways, thank you guys for listening. I hope you got something out of this, and maybe just some reassurance that you're doing the right thing, and just maybe hearing another option out there for your child. And so hopefully that was helpful. So you guys have a great rest of the week, evening, day, morning,
lunch,
graduations,
dinner,
if you're having it, start to the summer if that's when, and if whenever you're listening to us, hope it's a great day.
When you're sleeping.
Yeah. Someone fell asleep listening to us, right? That I know, I'm sure that happens.
White noise in the background.
It's okay. So all right, guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks on the next episode.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to play something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.